is the North End. This is the North End.
Okay, North End fans, Aston Villa fans worldwide. This is 5 things we learned from an unfortunate defeat to Chelsea this weekend. JP is taking the weekend off because he's lazy. But I am trying to be pro-California. There is a bear on my top, so there we go. Coming to you from the beautiful Boston, actually, my first time here. But unfortunately, the result was far from beautiful. So we're just going to get straight into it. I'm going to start positive because there's very few to take from this performance. But number one, we'll look better. We are playing decent football. I don't think any Villa fan could argue with that. The 45 minutes, bar the MINGS mistake, which we will come back to, was positive. Villa played well. We controlled the play. Now, you could argue that was a Chelsea kind of sat back. They didn't really do a whole lot to control the game. But also maybe they didn't feel like they had to do a whole lot because we were so incredibly bad, with the end result. Again, something we're going to come back to. But we moved the ball well. Our young players, Jacob Ramsey looked good. McGinn had a fairly decent game considering he hasn't been fantastic. And as a whole, I don't think it was a bad performance. I just think we were lacking. So that is a positive, and I'm gonna hold on to that. And you've got to hold on to the small moments of brightness when things look dark. Now, moving on to the dark. The second point. There's big issues when your best player is a 37-year-old player. A 37-year-old player who's been made to play as a left back. He has transitioned. He's a wonderful, wonderful player. And actually, I think he's going to go down as one of England's greatest performers. 20 years as a professional, and he looks fantastic. And without him, we'd be in serious trouble. Last week, an absolute wonder strike against Nottingham Forest. And then here, again, looking very solid, losing 2 left backs through injury. Obviously starting in Digne and then Augustinsson as the backup. So he's had to come in and do a job, and he looks great. But there's a huge problem when a 37-year-old is your best player. And every person in that squad has to be looking and wondering what is happening, because Ashley Young is meant to be a voice of education, a voice of reason, and a voice of, improvement for other young players. He's meant to guide. He's not meant to be the one still doing it. He's meant to be someone who's there for a rotation, maybe a squad game, in the league or whatever, a League Cup, sorry, but not in the Premier League. Like, it's just an unfortunate position we find ourselves in. And the fact that he really is the shining light in that starting 11 is wholly worrying. Point 3, we are in desperate trouble up front. So let's just look at the numbers. We have a 4.27 expected goal ratio in 2 games, in the Chelsea and Arsenal game, and we scored no goals. And that is a frightening statistic, and it's clear to anyone that's watched even highlights of Aston Villa, we're in massive trouble right now. Ollie Watkins is going through probably his worst goal drought and his worst confidence drought. He looks completely bereft of anything that would circumvent even a championship striker right now. And I hate to say it because I love his work rate. There's no knocking him, and I think he's a great lad, and he keeps his head down and works hard. But unfortunately, the Premier League expects results. There's a reason that Tammy Abraham didn't make it in the Premier League, and I know it's a name that Villa fans love to claw back. Well, right now he's not performing great in Roma, and it was the same in the Championship. Yes, he got older, but he was needing far too many chances and not finishing. And right now we are seeing that Tammy is always first to the ball because he's so quick. He's electric. But then the defender's not worried. He knows where to put him. He knows he doesn't really have 2 feet. And the shots are too predictable. And that is a real worry. Danny Ings was a wonderful, wonderful striker. I think he got looked over for a number of times. Obviously, career didn't really go the way he would have liked with the Liverpool and stuff like that. But it was a desperate signing that we obviously didn't need, and we're being made to pay for it. I was excited when we got him, but it did feel, even for me, like it was just we need something else, and I just don't think he was it. I don't think he's the guy, and we're just not working to his system. And again, another player he's trying, but it's just not coming to. But it is frustrating when you look at those kind of numbers. You look at our expected goals, even in this game at 1.68. We are creating the chances and we just cannot finish. And it's so frustrating when you have a youngster such as Cameron Archer. And Gerrard's getting annoyed in press conferences about, why are you asking people, is he a relation? No, it's because we're not scoring, Stevie. It's because we are desperately in need of goals. And you have a young lad who's proved himself at every level, whether it's been under 23s, whether it's been Preston, whether it's been anywhere he's gone. And yet he's there. When he comes on, he looks bright, he looks sharp, he really looks like he fits. And he's not getting time. Yes, he wasn't available this week, so obviously this week is a different one. But on the whole, it's frustrating. But we are in desperate trouble, and I don't know how that's going to improve. A third point is... fourth point is I'm just going to say it, is Mings. JP gets a bit frustrated here. He's been a big defender of Mings. Obviously, very unfortunate today. It was a terrible mistake. He knows it. He doesn't need me or anyone else to tell him that. He'll do what he does best. He'll put something out on Instagram, I'm sure, and hopefully he'll get over it. But it's just a shame for him with Gareth Southgate in the stands watching on. Obviously, more likely probably watching the Mount, Conor Gallagher if he gets some time, stuff like that. But there is the potential of Ollie Watkins. There is the potential of Mings and things like that. But obviously with performances like that, he's getting it nowhere near an England lineback and an England centre back position, which is a shame because you've got players such as Harry Maguire that are truly in an equally bad form right now. So this is his time, and I do feel for him. But more worrying, you take that point away, is that everything he touched, he didn't look certain today, and he's had really good games. But this is the problem with Mings. This is why I always had a frustration with him. It's not this game. This game I'm defending him. But it's over the course of his career, he always has these mistakes in him. And that is a problem at the top level. Yes, there are top defenders who make mistakes, but not at the level that Mings makes them. And that is an issue. So I don't want to make a big point of this. I'm going to add it as just because let's talk about the elephant in the room. But it just, he needs to get rid of that. I don't know how he does that, but if he just gets that sorted, great defender. And just a shame because it totally threw the game. We're 1-0 down very early on and we totally dominate the rest of the play, but it affects us. And then obviously we know Mount scores a great goal. Again, I could argue that Martinez, that could have been a point. He doesn't look particularly great right now. And should he have been beaten by that? I don't think so. But, I think Mount put a little bit of a sway in that ball. So started left, he ventured to his right, and obviously the ball moved across. So I don't know, the less said about that, the better. But Mings is really struggling. The last point is rotation. JP's talked about subs. I'm not going to call it subs. I'm going to say 14 players and nothing more is my point. And this is the problem, is for me, it's not even about substitutions, because I thought he brought on players that could try and make a difference. He brought on Buendia, he brought on Coutinho, and they haven't been doing it. But when the people in front of them are not scoring, it's very hard for them unless they do something wonderful. The problem more for me is that it is the same 14. John McGinn has been on a horrendous run of form. Where is his rotation? When Dia's been left out, when he had the highest expected goal of any player in the Villa squad as of, prior to this week, even though he's been coming on from a substitute position. So there's two examples. You've got Sanson screaming for opportunities. Gerrard doesn't think he's good enough, but what we're seeing being played in his position is not performing well. So does he deserve a look in at least? Cameron Archer, we've mentioned, barely get a sniff. Comes on last week, looked fantastic for that brief period that he was on. Obviously wasn't available this week, but we signed so many young players, and they weren't getting. Chukwuemeka had to leave. He sat there rotting on the bench at Chelsea. I don't see him playing for this Chelsea team. They've got too much depth. They've got Kovacic, they've got Pulisic, they've got all these players. You've got Jorginho, then you've got Conor Gallagher, who was phenomenal last year, screaming for an opportunity. Where does Carney get into that team? I just don't think he does. So was it a good decision for his career? I'm not really sure. Would he have got an opportunity at Villa? I think the reason that he didn't is, yes, he got a bit ahead of himself, but he wasn't getting played. So it's really frustrating on the whole to look at the same people appearing. And when it's not even that the same people are appearing, it's that he keeps messing with the lineup. It's like, at least if they appear regularly together, but he keeps flipping. Does he do this? Does he do that? If the same 14 aren't working, no matter how you set them up, you need to do something different. You need to look at the bench. You know, people are talking about Nakamba. I personally don't think Nakamba has it. He's a great guy for breaking up a play. He's not very good after that. He doesn't want the ball. He doesn't want to play the ball. He's like a 30% Kante. That's what you get from Nakamba. He's got all the tenacity, but he hasn't got the calm or the resilience to move the ball forward. So not really the guy I'm talking about. But I'm talking about the tens of millions of dollars we spent on youth. Fizaz doing phenomenally in, I think, League One right now. Had a fantastic game yesterday. Loads of young players, and it's like, well, if the regulars aren't working, like, we need to be looking outside of the box. And I do feel for Gerald this week. I'm just going to say that because I don't think it was a bad performance. I just think he's being let down by obviously us not performing in general. Like, the upfront players not scoring, and obviously Mings making these mistakes. It comes at the worst time, but at the same time, it doesn't negate the fact that there are major issues. Now, if you think you're going to see him gone, I'm going to bet that he's not going anywhere. Now, I know they're upset. I know that fans are really annoyed, and we're not sure where we're picking up points right now. But he's got some easier fixtures. I think they're going to give him that time, get to the World Cup break. And once the World Cup break's over, we're into the January window. And then if he's picked up a couple of points, he probably is saying, right, I need X, Y, and Z brought in because we're in big trouble and I need to shift. And then in the summer, we're going to kick out X, Y, and Z. But right now, it's crap time to be a Villa fan. That's all I'm going to say. But you got to keep the faith, and we just got to stay positive because, it's not going to be a magic formula. Mikey gets a shout out this week. Mikey you'll have seen him tearing into Villa fans on Villa forums, and he makes a great point. It's not a magic formula of sack a manager, enter a manager. Steven Gerrard has to be bought out. Then we have to pay the obnoxious amounts of rates that the Pochettino's been suggested, and all these guys. Why would they want to come? This is right now it's a sinking ship. It's a poison chalice, and they don't want anything to do with it. And Pochettino is certainly not going to touch anywhere near that. Maybe in Unai Emery, maybe. But, unless the contract's big, but it's a lot of money with no guarantee of success. So I think we have to stick with Stevie right now and just hope it gets better. And, he's had a rough time with injuries. Fingers crossed they get better. But right now we have to see something change. And if Archer is available next week, I start him. I don't care what Steven says about him not training enough. I think that bullshit has to go out the window. He has to play. He has to play because Watkins is diabolical right now. And Ings is really not a whole lot better. So, he's young, he's fresh, he wants to play, give him the opportunity. And if he doesn't do it, fine, okay, we made a mistake. But at least we tried something. And I think the Villa fans would appreciate that. So, anyways, we've talked for enough. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. It's always hard being a Villa fan and trying to enjoy a weekend. But for now, thanks for following. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, tell your friends. And if you don't agree with me, I don't care. Tell me in the comments, let's have an argument. All right, thanks.
This is the North End. This is the North End.